Yeah, I think that I became more interested in the philosophies and the implications of those philosophies through personal experience. Because without that, it's still just philosophical. And I don't know, I'm just not that interested in philosophy personally. But through the experiences, I was like, what did I just experience? Oh my God, I'm so much greater. My consciousness is so much greater. There's so many different ways to interact with reality,
Mm.
like that
You
kind
took
of
an
thing opens
LSD
up to
trip, did
you.
you, or what was it?
Yeah, LSD, yes, psilocybin. I mean, a few
Also,
different
okay.
ones. I mean,
Mm.
even MDMA, right, is like expands your emotional landscape in
Mm.
such a vastly different way. Like you didn't even know you could feel the range of emotions. Again, it's like going from 2D emotions to 3D emotions.
Mm.
And you just can't believe that you live such a limited, like
Mm.
everyday reality. So
Mm.
I think, yeah, because of those experiences, but you don't have to do drugs. Obviously, you can achieve all those states through breath work or meditation. But slipping into those states, I think, makes you much more interested in the philosophical, like, panpsychism or idealism or or
Yeah.
whatever it is, cosmopsychism. Like they just become more
And
interesting.
psychedelics are slowly becoming more and more accepted again, as they were in the 50s before they were all banned
Mhm.
as narcotics. But now they're slowly becoming accepted again as like medical treatments for people with PTSD, for instance, or
Yeah.
I mean all kinds of
Yes.
stuff. And I think that's also a promising sign, I guess.
Yeah. I think it's great. I do think there's going to be, I think there's some dangers there too, but we'll see. I think I like psychedelics and altered states because they're the intersection of like science, spirituality, like and the human experience just as a whole. So philosophy to me is interesting to sit around, and think about, but I do like to focus on what's practical and what can improve my day-to-day everyday living. And I think experiencing those altered states, I think does help. I think spirituality enhances like, my personal interaction with everyday reality, day-to-day living. So I'm actually like, I know some people really like to focus on the philosophy, and I'm happy to think about it and talk about it. But I really think, it's like what's useful for people in their everyday, day-to-day living.
Yeah.
If it helps you, like if it relieves your suffering to understand that everything is conscious, then that's beautiful. But if it doesn't, then who cares?
Well, it's a wonderful endeavor. I mean, everybody can't be a philosopher. That wouldn't work. 8 billion philosophers wouldn't work.
No, definitely not.
So I'm happy that some people want to do
Right.
the hard work or
I,
the practical work, the practical stuff.
yeah, I
So
agree.
how known and how accepted is it among scientists, neuroscientists in particular, that when you take psychedelics, the brain actually is not exactly turned off, but its activity diminishes significantly. And because I think it was a study back in 2012 that found this for the first time.
Mhm.
I think it's been replicated after that, because before that, everybody assumed that the brain would, be lit up like a Christmas tree when you took psychedelics,
That's right.
because people had these amazing experiences. But it's the other way around, isn't it? And how known is that, and how accepted is that?
That's a good question. I mean, for people who pay attention to psychedelic neuroscience, I think it's pretty well known, but I don't think that everybody pays attention to that yet. I don't know how widely known it is, honestly. But although I've had a lot of people ask
It's
me,
crucial, isn't it? It's very crucial for the understanding of the brain, what the brain does and what the brain is, and what it produces and
yeah,
what it doesn't produce.
yeah, and they're continuing to do neuroimaging studies. And I mean, I think the tough thing with neuroimaging, because I used to do this work, so is that it's so noisy. Like the pictures are noisy. You have to run all of these statistics to get anything meaningful, and it's so expensive to run even one patient. That's why all neuroimaging studies always have small populations because it's so expensive. Like I think it used to be like $500 or $700 per person or something. Like it's so expensive. So Um, the problem with the studies is that we need a lot more. We need so many more studies, so many more people's brains scanned to say anything truly meaningful. But you are right that the evidence that's coming out so far, it shows a few interesting things. One is everyone, because when you're on a psychedelic, it's like the world is sparkling and like everything is alive, that there's so much stimulation that your brain must be firing on all levels. But they found in some of the earlier studies that there was actually reduced activity in certain areas. And I think overall in general, there was reduced activity. I don't know for certain that that's held up across all studies and all substances. That's another thing, is all the
Mm.
substances are different. But I do know that they have found, and again, so much work is needed, but they found that the default mode network, which is the network in the brain that is focused on yourself, it's called default because when you go into default mode, when you're not thinking or not talking to someone, what do? You think about yesterday, what you're going to do in the future. You're basically thinking about yourself usually. So default mode. But they found in meditators, experienced meditators, that they can dampen activity in that. And they found that in certain psychedelics too, that activity in that network is dampened, which basically means it takes the focus off of you and expands it outward, or it diminishes the boundary between you and other, which is exactly the experience you have on psychedelics, which is that it's not so clear where I end and you begin, or where I end and the table begins. Like all these boundaries become blurred. And another thing they found is that your brain, gets used to firing in certain patterns, right? And it's like lazy. It takes energy to change those patterns. But what psychedelics do is it breaks open those patterns and allows new connections to be made. So that's why you see people able to change their behavior more easily. That's why psychedelics paired with psychotherapy helps people change and cure, PTSD or cure traumas, because they're able to actually change those circuits much more easily than a psychotherapy alone, or even psychedelics alone. Like together, it works best. So there's those are a few of the findings that are pretty promising. But yes, I think they need to do a little more work on that. But it was shocking, and it does tie back to some of the theories about broader consciousness. Like Aldous Huxley in his book Doors of Perception proposed that there's a mind at large, like a field of consciousness, and that if our brains filter the field, and like on psychedelics, you open the filter and you can see more. And that's what people got excited about from those initial neuroimaging findings.